Hi, my name's Allie, and I wanted to make this video for people who experience an overall negative impact from their childhood. So for people who went through physical and emotional neglect, physical and emotional abuse, for people who suffered from a lack of warmth, compassion, and love in their upbringing. Because if we went through experiences like that as children, if that was our normal experience, or if we experienced, a lot of fear in the home and just, the need to protect ourselves all the time, it's going to be a process to heal as adults. And as adults, one of the things that I see is that we become overly critical with ourselves if we went through a childhood where there was a lack of love, a lack of warmth, a lack of compassion, because if that wasn't given to us early on, it's not a familiar experience. So as adults, in order to heal from that type of thing, we have to really do that ourselves. There's no amount of love and compassion and warmth someone else can give us to make us feel that way. Of course, there are experiences that we have with other people that can be healing for us, but if we did suffer from a lot of this lack growing up, we actually really have to do the healing for ourselves, because the reason why is that we don't have the receptors to be able to feel, truly feel loved if that's not what our experience was growing up. We're going to have the same type of defense mechanisms and responses as adults that we had as children in order to protect ourselves. So that is a complex type of trauma that takes a longer healing process. So as adults, we have to do the work in order to build a life where we're able to experience more comfort, more ease, more relaxation, more joy. It's really important to heal the nervous system. I noticed that even from personal experience, that my nervous system was probably the number one thing I just have to look out for, and the number one thing I have to keep in check. If we experience a lot of pain, a lot of neglect, abuse, a lot of fear in our childhood, we carry that with us as adults, and we carry all of that pain in our bodies. It comes with us in our bodies. So that is something we have to heal somatically as well as mentally. So both of these things go hand in hand. So as adults, we have to teach ourselves how to relax and how to feel more at ease and how to become present in our bodies. So it's really important to learn how to feel our experiences in our bodies, because as children, if we went through a lot of trauma in the home, we tend to dissociate from our bodies. So we kind of so by dissociation, I mean we're not fully in ourselves because it's not safe to be there. And this doesn't mean you had to have gone through a war or gone through some crazy, physically abusive situation, and maybe you have, but it doesn't have to be that severe. Sometimes it's just the form of emotional abandonment, or it's in the form of, a lot of verbal volatility, or it could have been in the form of, just neglect. If you're being completely neglected as a child, that's abandonment. So there's reasons to dissociate from that type of thing. So whatever the level of trauma that you experienced, it's really important to bring yourself back into your body. So it's going to be really important to create an intrinsic sense of self-worth. And this is built over time, like I said, but one of the first primal things is to bring yourself back into your body, come to a state of relaxation, of ease. And to teach yourself intrinsic self-worth, you can also do verbal affirmations. So really try to feel new feelings that you weren't really used to feeling before. You're gonna have to teach yourself how to feel loved, consistently loved, unconditionally loved. You're gonna have to teach yourself all those things. And it can sound really daunting because it's gonna be a completely different experience than what you've had before, but you're just gonna have to teach yourself new experiences, because the brain, we all have neuroplasticity. So it's always possible to learn new things and to teach ourselves how to feel new feelings. It's completely possible to transform the way that we experience life and the way that we feel in our bodies. So for example, maybe in early adulthood, you were going through a lot of volatile relationships, a lot of friendships maybe you're taking advantage of, or maybe there's just a lot of bad things going on in your life, and you think that that's just your life. You just think that that's your life. Or maybe you were doing substances or were involved in other things that just made you think that this is just how my life is going to be. I'm just going to live this life of fear, of running away, of just of pain. You just think that you're going to live this life full of pain. But you don't have to live that way. That doesn't have to be your life. And for me, it was just really important to just stop and take a break. So for me, it was really important to go back to my child self and really learn how to love that person who, even though she's no longer in physical existence, that's who's been inside of me with all that fear and all that pain. growing up. So I have to learn how to heal that because that's still in my body and that affects everything in the present moment. Sometimes it helps to pretend that you do have a parent who is really genuinely compassionate and we're just really good at being a parent, and imagine that you have that in your life, and imagine how they would treat you and how they would want you to treat yourself. So you have to go back and reparent yourself. Your parents and your caregivers were the very first people in your life that formed your initial experience of life. So if things were haywire, that's how your initial life experience is gonna be. So a lot of their actions molded you into who you become, and that affects your relationship with the world. But where we have the power is to change that experience once we are able to see that. We have to see where things went wrong in our lives. We have to see what was wrong, like what was just plain wrong, like if someone was treating us poorly, if someone was neglecting us. In my experience, I think it's important to see that so that we can acknowledge that and see how we brought that with us and see how we can change that now. And if we did experience a lot of poor treatment when we were young, a lot of children, you know, because your parents are almost like your first experiences, they're your first experiences with life, or your caregivers or whoever was there at the very first experience of your life. And so it's almost like, you know, we treat when little babies almost see their parents as God, and that's a natural thing to do. So if our parents treated us poorly when we were so young, we're going to think that that's how we deserve to be treated, because we're going to think that that's how God wants us to be treated. We're going to think that it's because there's something wrong with us, that we don't deserve to be treated well. And these are not conscious thoughts that we're going to have, but they're just going to be intrinsic feelings that we have. So that's going to deeply affect our self-worth. And then these initial experiences are going to come with you, and it's going to show up as harshness towards yourself in the way that you treat yourself, in the way that you feel about yourself. So if you struggle with being overly critical and self-punishing and just treating yourself so harshly without having any compassion and love for yourself, that's not your fault. It's just because you were treated that way from early on and you just carried that with you, and that's all you knew. So if you have lived a life of pain and self-sabotage, it is not your fault. And it's something that you can heal step by step. And it's something that you really have to dedicate yourself to healing if you want to change that. So to heal from this type of past, your presence towards yourself is going to become the most important thing, because the only person that can heal you is you. A lot of us who went through these types of things are going to be seeking experiences from the outside when we're unconscious about it. A lot of people who suffered a lack of love and compassion and warmth in their earlier life oftentimes grow up and they seek it from other people. But the thing is that, you know, if you don't have the receptors and the intrinsic self-worth, and if you haven't healed that from an internal place, doesn't matter how someone treats you. Someone could treat you with the most love, kindness, care, and respect and compassion, and you wouldn't be able to feel it. It's unfortunate, but it's true. You wouldn't be able to feel it unless you heal that from within, because that's not something that is familiar to you. It's kind of like a vending machine, and it's an American vending machine and it requires quarters, but you're putting in like Canadian quarters. Like the machine doesn't understand how to take that. It doesn't have the receptors for that, so it's going to spit it back out. So I know that's kind of a weird analogy, but that's just what I'm using to try to explain that it has to be done from within. Like you really have to change from within yourself, and the only person that can do that is you. And that's actually good news, because you are the only person that can control yourself and what you're doing and your path. So I'm gonna make more videos on this and how to heal from this type of thing, but there are so many other creators, YouTube creators, that are talking about this and how to reparent yourself. There's professionals that are talking about this. I'm not a professional, I'm just talking about it on a personal level. So I'm gonna link some professionals or some coaches that do talk about this type of thing below. I'm gonna link some things that I think might be helpful. I've also made videos with affirmations and meditation music that can help with trying to be compassionate towards yourself and having more self-respect. So I'm going to link some of the videos that I've made below with affirmations. So my main motivation for this video was to just kind of draw attention to some of the reasons why there's so many people who are so self-critical, have so many doubts, and not to say that you had to have gone through an abusive childhood to have doubts and be self-critical, because, you know, there's so many reasons why we can form these things. But it is a common thing that a lot of us went through negative and traumatic early on experiences that have really affected the way that we're operating and we're living right now. So I just wanted to draw attention to why some of us might be doing self-sabotage, why we might be going down a path that we're not wanting to go down, and it's not your fault. So let me know in the comments if there's anything that has helped you on your journey with this. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content, and I hope to see you in the next one.